First contact and rescue. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the Earth exploration vessel horizon, its sleek hull glinting in the light of a distant star. Inside the bridge, Captain Jake Foster leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile playing across his rugged features. After months of uneventful travel, they had finally discovered something interesting, an uncharted nebula teeming with unusual energy readings. "Dr. Chen, what do you make of these readings?" Jake asked, turning to the ship's lead scientist. Before Dr. Chen could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. The tactical officer's voice cut through the chaos. "Unknown vessels approaching at high speed. They're not responding to hails." Jake's training kicked in instantly. Shields up, evasive maneuvers. But it was too late. The first volley of enemy fire tore through the horizon's defenses like they weren't even there. Jake watched in horror as his crew was thrown about the bridge, consoles exploding in showers of sparks. "Abandon ship," he yelled, helping the wounded crew member to her feet. "Everyone to the escape pods." As the horizon disintegrated around them, Jake ensured his crew made it to safety. He was about to enter the last pod when a final explosion rocked the ship, sending him flying. His head slammed against a bulkhead, and darkness claimed him. Zara, captain of the Lizerian exploration vessel Starweaver, frowned at the debris field before her. The destruction was recent, the energy signatures still active. Her antennae twitched with curiosity and concern. "Life signs?" she asked, her melodic voice carrying an edge of authority. Her sensor officer, Krell, chittered excitedly. "One faint signal, Captain. Unknown species." Zara's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession. "Bring it aboard." Carefully. As her crew maneuvered the Starweaver closer, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that this discovery would change everything. The Lizerian Confederation had yet to make official first contact with any sentient species beyond their own system. If this life form survived, it could be historic. The medical bay doors hissed open, revealing the unconscious form of a being Zara had never seen before. It was bipedal, with pinkish skin and a tuft of dark fur on its head. As she approached, she noticed the rise and fall of its chest. It was breathing. "Fascinating," she murmured, reaching out a slender, blue-tinged hand to touch the creature's face. Its skin was warm, softer than she expected. Suddenly, its eyes snapped open. Zara found herself staring into orbs of deep brown, filled with confusion and fear. The being let out a startled yell and tried to sit up, only to groan in pain. "Be still," Zara said, hoping her translator was working correctly. "You're injured. We mean you no harm." Jake's head was spinning. The last thing he remembered was the horizon exploding around him. Now he was, where exactly? His vision focused on the alien standing before him. She, at least he thought it was a she, was unlike anything he'd ever seen. Tall and lithe, with blue-tinted skin that seemed to shimmer. 4 eyes regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and concern, and 2 delicate antennae swayed gently above her head. "Who? What are you?" Jake managed to croak out. "I am Captain Zara of the Lizerian vessel Starweaver," she replied. "We found you floating among the wreckage of your ship. You're the only survivor." The weight of her words hit Jake like a physical blow. His ship, his crew, all gone. He was alone, at the mercy of an unknown alien species. Part of him wanted to break down, to give in to the grief and fear threatening to overwhelm him. But years of training and the responsibility he felt as a captain kept him focused. "I'm Captain Jake Foster of the Earth ship Horizon," he said, his voice growing stronger. "Thank you for saving me." Zara's antennae twitched in what Jake would later learn was a sign of surprise. "Earth, we've never encountered your species before. This is unexpected." As Jake's strength returned, he became acutely aware of his situation. He was completely dependent on these aliens who knew nothing about humans or their place in the galaxy. The thought was both terrifying and exhilarating. Over the next few days, as Jake recovered in the Starweaver's medical bay, He and Zara spent hours talking. She was fascinated by humanity, peppering him with questions about Earth, its cultures and technologies. In turn, Jake learned about the Lizurians, a species of explorers and scientists, driven by an insatiable curiosity about the universe. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Cultural misunderstandings abounded, leading to moments of tension and confusion. Jake's direct manner of speaking sometimes offended the more formal Lizurians, while their communal approach to decision-making frustrated the human captain used to a clear chain of command. One particular incident stood out. During a tour of the ship, Jake instinctively reached out to steady himself against a wall covered in intricate patterns. The Lizurian crew reacted with horror, quickly pulling him away. "You must never touch the ancestral markings," Zora exclaimed, her usual calm demeanor shaken. Jake apologized profusely, explaining that he hadn't realized the significance of the patterns. It was a stark reminder of how little he knew about his hosts and their ways. As the days passed, Jake's thoughts turned increasingly to Earth. He needed to warn them about the hostile ships that had attacked the horizon. But the Starweaver was heading deeper into unexplored space, far from any human colonies or outposts. "Captain Zora," Jake said one evening as they shared a meal of strange, glowing fruits, "I'm grateful for your hospitality, but I need to return to my people. They need to know what happened." Zara's 4 eyes blinked in unison, a gesture Jake had come to recognize as her processing new information. "I understand your concern, Jake, but our mission is of utmost importance. We're tracking an anomaly that could threaten this entire sector of space. We can't turn back now." Jake felt a surge of frustration. "My entire crew was killed. Earth needs to be warned. We have to." He was cut off by a sudden lurch of the ship. Alarms blared, and Zora was instantly on her feet, racing towards the bridge with Jake close behind. As they burst onto the command deck, Jake's eyes widened at the sight on the main viewer. A massive ship, easily 3 times the size of the Starweaver, loomed before them. Its design was angular and predatory, bristling with weapons. "Vulcan warship," Zara hissed, her antennae flattening against her head. "They must have followed us from the Nyx Nebula." Jake's mind raced. The Vulcan. He'd heard Zora mention them before. A warrior race, aggressive and territorial. If they were anything like the ships that had attacked the horizon. "Evasive maneuvers," Zara ordered, her crew responding with practiced efficiency. But the Vulcan ship was faster, more powerful. A beam of sickly green energy lashed out, catching the Starweaver's port side. The ship shuddered violently, and Jake was thrown to the floor. As he struggled to his feet, Jake saw fear in the eyes of the Lizurian crew. They were scientists, explorers, not soldiers. They weren't prepared for this kind of confrontation. In that moment, Jake made a decision. He might be lost in an unknown part of the galaxy, surrounded by aliens he barely understood. But he was still a captain, still human. And humanity had a long history of beating the odds. "Captain Zora," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos on the bridge. "I have an idea. But you're going to have to trust me." Zara turned to him, her 4 eyes wide with a mixture of desperation and hope. She nodded once, decisively. "Tell me." As Jake began to outline his plan, he felt a surge of determination. He might be the only human for light years, but he'd be damned if he let that stop him from showing these aliens what humanity was capable of. The battle for survival had begun, and with it, a new chapter in human-alien relations. Whether they emerged victorious or not, nothing would ever be the same again. Adapting to alien life. Jake's plan had worked, barely. Using a daring combination of Lizurian technology and human unpredictability, they had managed to escape the Vulcan warship. The Starweaver limped through space, its hull scared but intact, its crew shaken but alive. In the aftermath of the battle, Jake found himself thrust into a new role. No longer just a rescued survivor, he was now viewed with a mixture of curiosity and respect by the Lizurian crew. Zara, in particular, seemed to be reassessing her opinion of him. "Your species is surprising," she said as they walked through the ship's arboretum, a lush garden filled with alien flora that helped recycle the air. "I've never seen anyone think so quickly under pressure." Jake shrugged, still uncomfortable with the attention. "Humans have a long history of adapting to unexpected situations. It's kind of our thing." As days turned into weeks, Jake threw himself into learning everything he could about Lizurian culture and technology. He was fascinated by their advanced propulsion systems, which allowed for faster-than-light travel without the need for the cumbersome warp drives Earth ships used. Their medical technology was equally impressive, capable of healing injuries that would be fatal to humans in a matter of hours. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Jake struggled with the alien food, his stomach rebelling against the strange proteins and enzymes. The ship's gravity was slightly lower than Earth standard, leaving him feeling constantly off balance. And then there was the issue of privacy, or rather, the Lizurian lack of it. "You mean you can all hear each other's thoughts?" Jake asked incredulously during one of his many cultural exchange sessions with Zora. She tilted her head, antennae twitching in amusement. "Not exactly. We're empathically linked to those close to us. It allows for more efficient communication and cooperation." Jake shuddered at the thought. "No offense, but that sounds like a nightmare to most humans. We value our mental privacy." Zora's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a gesture Jake had come to recognize as surprise. "Fascinating. How do you coordinate effectively without such a connection?" These conversations often left both of them with more questions than answers, but they also formed the basis of a growing understanding and friendship between the human and Lizurian captain. As Jake's knowledge grew, so did his responsibilities aboard the Starweaver. Zora began including him in mission briefings and decision-making processes. His unique perspective often provided insights the Lizurians hadn't considered. During one such meeting, as they discussed the strange anomaly they were tracking, Jake had an epiphany. "Wait, these energy patterns, they're similar to something we observed just before my ship was attacked." The revelation sent a ripple of excitement and concern through the Lizurian crew. Could there be a connection between the anomaly and the hostile ships that had destroyed the horizon? As they delved deeper into the mystery, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of uncovering something big, something that could have far-reaching consequences for both their species. But even as Jake found his place among the Lizurian crew, he was acutely aware of his isolation. He was the only human in this part of the galaxy, possibly the first to ever encounter the Lizurians. The weight of that responsibility sometimes felt overwhelming. Late one night cycle, unable to sleep, Jake found himself in the ship's observation deck. The vast expanse of unfamiliar stars stretched out before him, beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. He was so lost in thought that he didn't hear Zora approach. "You're troubled," she said softly, startling him. Jake sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Just thinking about home, about Earth. They have no idea what's out here, the wonders and the dangers. And I have no way to warn them." Zora was silent for a long moment, her gaze fixed on the starfield. When she spoke, her voice was filled with a emotion Jake couldn't quite identify. "When this mission is complete, we will help you return to your people, Jake. You have my word." The promise hung between them, full of unspoken implications. Jake realized with a start that the thought of leaving the Starweaver, of leaving Zora, filled him with an unexpected sense of loss. Before he could respond, alarms blared throughout the ship. Zora's antennae stiffened in alarm. "We're approaching the source of the anomaly," she said, already moving towards the bridge. "Prepare yourself, Jake. I fear we're about to face something unlike anything either of our species has encountered before." As they raced to the command center, Jake's mind whirled with possibilities. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing for certain. His presence here, at this moment in time, had the potential to change the course of history for both humans and Lizurians. The bridge was a flurry of activity when they arrived. On the main viewer, a swirling vortex of energy pulsed and writhed, defying all known laws of physics. "Report," Zara commanded, sliding into her captain's chair with Jake standing at her side. "The anomaly is emitting waves of unknown energy," the science officer reported, his voice tense. It's growing, Captain." As they watched, tendrils of energy began to reach out from the vortex, probing the space around it. One such tendril brushed against the Starweaver, sending a shudder through the entire ship. "Shields at maximum," Zara ordered. "Prepare tow." Her words were cut off as a blinding flash of light engulfed the bridge. Jake felt a searing pain in his head, accompanied by a rush of alien thoughts and emotions. For a brief, terrifying moment, he was connected to every mind on the ship, and to something else, something vast and incomprehensible. As quickly as it had come, the sensation faded. Jake found himself on his knees, gasping for breath. Around him, the Lizurian crew were in similar states of distress. What was that?" he managed to choke out. Zara, her blue skin pale with shock, met his gaze. "I believe," she said slowly, "that we've just made contact with a form of life entirely beyond our understanding." As the implications of her words sank in, Jake realized that his adventure among the stars had only just begun. The true test of humanity's place in the cosmos lay ahead, and he was the only representative of his species here to face it. With a deep breath, Jake pulled himself to his feet. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them. For Earth, for the Lizurians, and for the future of interstellar cooperation that he now embodied. "Well," he said, a hint of his old confidence returning, "let's see what it wants to talk about, shall we?" Zara's antennae twitched in what Jake now recognized as amusement tinged with respect. As the crew of the Starweaver prepared to face the unknown, human and Lizurian stood side by side, united in their curiosity and determination to unravel the mysteries of the universe. The journey that had begun with Jake's rescue had led them to the threshold of a discovery that could reshape their understanding of life itself. And as they took their first tentative steps into this new frontier, Jake couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Humanity, it seemed, had found its place among the stars. Proving human worth. The aftermath of their encounter with the anomaly left the crew of the Starweaver reeling. The brief mental connection they had experienced had shaken everyone to their core, but none more so than Jake. As the only human aboard, he had no frame of reference for the alien thoughts and emotions that had flooded his mind. In the days that followed, Jake found himself struggling with headaches and vivid, incomprehensible dreams. But along with these challenges came something unexpected. A heightened intuition, a sense of the ship and its crew that went beyond mere observation. Zara noticed the change in him. "You seem different," she said one day as they pored over data from the anomaly. "More attuned to the ship, to us." Jake nodded, still trying to make sense of it himself. "It's like I can feel the ship's rhythms, almost hear the thoughts of the crew." "Is this what it's like for you all the time?" Zara's antennae twitched in surprise. "To some degree, yes. But for you to experience it, Jake, I believe the anomaly may have awakened latent psychic abilities in your species." The implications were staggering. If true, it could revolutionize humanity's understanding of their own potential. But before Jake could fully process this, a new crisis demanded their attention. Alarms blared throughout the ship. Multiple Volcran warships detected. The tactical officer announced, his voice tight with fear. Jake and Zara exchanged a grim look. The Volcran had found them again. And this time, they had brought reinforcements. As the crew scrambled to battle stations, Jake felt a surge of determination. This was his chance to prove his worth, to show that humanity had something unique to offer in the face of danger. "Captain," he said, an idea forming in his mind, "I think I know how we can use this new connection to our advantage." Zara hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "I trust you, Jake. What's your plan?" Jake outlined his strategy quickly. By combining his newfound sensitivity to the ship's systems with the Lizurians' natural empathic abilities, they could coordinate their efforts with unprecedented precision. As the Volcran ships opened fire, the Starweaver danced through space, evading blasts with an agility that seemed impossible for a vessel its size. Jake stood on the bridge, eyes closed, acting as a conduit between the crew and the ship's systems. Through him, the pilot anticipated maneuvers before Zara could even give the order. The weapons officer fired with uncanny accuracy, finding weak spots in the Volcran shields that should have been impossible to detect. The battle raged for what felt like hours, a deadly dance among the stars. But gradually, the tide began to turn. One by one, the Volcran ships fell back, their coordinated assault thrown into disarray by the Starweaver's inexplicable performance. As the last enemy ship retreated, a cheer went up from the Lizurian crew. Jake opened his eyes, exhausted but exhilarated. He found Zora staring at him with a mixture of awe and something deeper, something he couldn't quite name. "That was remarkable," she said softly. "You've given us a new way to interface with our technology, a new level of coordination we never thought possible." Jake managed a tired smile. "Just doing my part for interstellar cooperation." In the wake of their victory, Jake's status among the crew shifted dramatically. No longer was he seen as just a curiosity or a rescued survivor. Now he was a valuable asset, someone with unique skills that complemented their own. This new respect brought with it increased responsibilities. Jake found himself involved in high-level discussions about the ship's mission and the broader implications of their discoveries. It was during one such meeting that they uncovered something troubling: the energy signatures from the anomaly. The science officer reported they'd match fragments of data we've intercepted from high-level Volcran communications. A hush fell over the room as the implication sank in. "Are you saying the Volcran are somehow connected to the anomaly?" Zara asked, her voice tense. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "Or they're trying to weaponize it," he suggested grimly. "That could explain why they've been so determined to stop us." The revelation cast their entire mission in a new light. What had begun as a scientific expedition had now become a race to prevent a potentially catastrophic weapon from falling into the wrong hands. As they delved deeper into the mystery, Jake's unique perspective proved invaluable. His human intuition, combined with his new psychic sensitivity, allowed him to make connections the Lizurians might have missed. One night, as he and Zora worked late in her ready room, Jake had a breakthrough. "Wait a second," he said, excitement building in his voice. "Look at these patterns in the Volcran transmissions. They're not just data, they're coordinates." Zara leaned in, her 4 eyes widening as she saw what Jake had noticed. "You're right, but coordinates to what?" Jake's expression was grim. "I think I know. Remember that nebula where my ship was attacked? I bet that's where they're building whatever weapon they're planning to use the anomaly for." The pieces were falling into place, revealing a conspiracy that stretched across multiple star systems. The Volcran weren't just aggressive warriors. They were planning something that could shift the balance of power in the entire sector. As the Starweaver changed course, heading for the coordinates Jake had deciphered, tension aboard the ship reached new heights. They were diving into the heart of Volcran territory, risking everything on Jake's hunch. The night before they were due to arrive, Jake found himself once again in the observation deck, staring out at the unfamiliar stars. He sensed Zara's approach before he heard her, another sign of his evolving abilities. "Having second thoughts?" she asked, coming to stand beside him. Jake shook his head. "No, just processing. A few months ago, I was captaining a small Earth ship on a routine exploration mission. Now I'm in the middle of an alien conspiracy that could reshape this part of the galaxy." He turned to look at her, a wry smile on his face. "It's a lot to take in." Zara's antennae twitched in what Jake now recognized as affection. "You've adapted remarkably well, Jake. Your presence here, your unique abilities, they may be the key to stopping the Volcran's plans." There was a weight to her words, an unspoken question hanging in the air between them. Jake felt a surge of emotions, pride in how far he'd come, determination to see this mission through, and something else, something growing between him and Zara that neither of them had dared to name. "Whatever happens," he said softly, "I'm glad I'm here. With you. With this crew. You've shown me wonders I never could have imagined, given me a chance to make a difference on a scale I never thought possible." Zara's hand found his, her touch sending a spark of connection through their newly formed psychic link. "And you, Jake Foster, have shown us the true potential of humanity. Whatever challenges we face tomorrow, we face them together." As they stood there, human and Lizerian, united in purpose, Jake knew that win or lose, their actions in the coming days would change the course of history for both their peoples. The stars stretched out before them, full of danger and promise in equal measure. Tomorrow, they would confront the Volcrin and uncover the truth behind the anomaly. But for now, in this quiet moment, Jake allowed himself to feel the weight of his journey, from lone survivor to key player in an interstellar drama. Whatever lay ahead, he was ready to face it, armed with his human ingenuity, his new Lizerian family, and the unique gifts that bridged both worlds. The fate of multiple civilizations hung in the balance, and Jake Foster, once just a captain from Earth, now stood at the center of it all. Battle for survival. The Starweaver dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the nebula, its sensors immediately coming alive with activity. Jake stood on the bridge, his newfound connection to the ship humming with tension. Through the main view screen, he could see the swirling gases of the nebula, beautiful and ominous. Multiple Volcrin signatures detected, the tactical officer reported, his voice taut. "There by the ancestors, there are dozens of them." Zara's antennae flattened against her head, a sign of stress Jake had come to recognize. "Can we cloak?" "Negative," came the reply. "The nebula's interference is too strong." Jake closed his eyes, reaching out with his enhanced senses. He could feel the Volcrin ships, their hostile intent palpable even at this distance. But there was something else, something deeper in the nebula that pulsed with an alien rhythm. "The anomaly," he said, opening his eyes. "It's here, and it's growing." Zara nodded grimly. "Then we have no choice. We must stop whatever the Volcrin are planning, no matter the cost." She turned to Jake, her four eyes filled with a mixture of determination and something deeper. "Are you ready for this?" Jake managed a tight smile. "Born ready, Captain. Let's show these Volcrin what happens when they mess with a human and his Lizerian friends." As if in response to his words, the first volley of Volcrin fire streaked across space towards them. The battle had begun. What followed was a symphony of chaos and precision. Jake stood at the center of it all, acting as a living conduit between the crew, the ship, and the swirling energies of the nebula itself. Through him, the Starweaver moved with impossible grace, weaving between enemy ships and using the nebula's gases for cover. But the Volcrin were relentless. For every ship they managed to disable, two more seemed to take its place. The Starweaver shuddered under repeated impacts, its shields weakening with each blast. "We can't keep this up forever," Zara said, her usual calm demeanor cracking under the strain. "We need to find the source of the anomaly and shut it down." Jake nodded, sweat beading on his brow as he maintained his psychic link. "I think I can guide us there, but it'll mean dropping our shields for a moment to navigate a particularly dense part of the nebula." Zara hesitated for only a second before nodding. "Do it." With a thought, Jake directed the Starweaver into a narrow channel of clear space within the nebula. The ship's shields flickered and died, leaving them vulnerable. Volcrin fire intensified, scoring hits along the hull. "Hull breach on Deck 7. Someone shouted. "Rerouting power." Another voice called out. Jake gritted his teeth, pushing through the pain and chaos. He could feel the anomaly now, its alien presence growing stronger with each passing second. They were close, so close. Suddenly, The nebula parted before them, revealing a sight that took Jake's breath away. At the center of a massive clearing floated a structure unlike anything he had ever seen. It was a twisted spire of dark metal and pulsing energy, easily the size of a small moon. And at its heart, a swirling vortex of power that could only be the fully manifested anomaly. "By all that's holy," Zara whispered, her voice filled with awe and horror. But they had little time to marvel at the sight. The Volcran fleet closed in around them, weapons charging for a final devastating barrage. "Jake," Zara said urgently, "if you have any more tricks up your sleeve, now would be the time." Jake closed his eyes, reaching out with every ounce of his newfound abilities. He could feel the anomaly, its alien consciousness brushing against his mind. And in that touch, he understood. "It's alive," he said, his eyes snapping open. "The anomaly, it's a living entity. And the Volcran, they're trying to enslave it, to use its power as a weapon." Understanding dawned on Zara's face. "Then we need to free it." Jake nodded, a plan already forming in his mind. "I think I can communicate with it, but I'll need to be closer. Much closer." What followed was the most daring maneuver yet. As the Volcran ships closed in, the Starweaver dove towards the massive structure. Jake directed their course, guiding them through a maze of twisted metal and energy fields. "Jake," Zara said softly as they approached the heart of the anomaly, "if this doesn't work." He turned to her, managing a smile despite the chaos around them. "It's been an honor, Captain. No matter what happens, I wouldn't trade this adventure for anything." Their eyes met, volumes of unspoken emotion passing between them in that brief moment. Then Jake turned back to the task at hand, reaching out with his mind towards the swirling vortex of the anomaly. The contact was overwhelming. Jake's consciousness expanded, touching something vast and ancient and utterly alien. He felt the entity's confusion, its pain at being trapped and manipulated by the Volcran, and he showed it something new: cooperation, symbiosis, the potential for growth and understanding between different species. For a moment that seemed to stretch into eternity, Jake hung suspended between two worlds, the physical realm of the ship and the crew he had come to love, and the incomprehensible mental landscape of the anomaly entity. Then, with a surge of power that shook the very fabric of space-time, the anomaly made its choice. Energy exploded outward from the structure, washing over the Starweaver and the Volcran fleet. But where it merely passed over the Lizurian ship, it tore into the Volcran vessels, overloading their systems and sending them spinning out of control. On the bridge of the Starweaver, Jake collapsed, the psychic strain finally overwhelming him. The last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Zora's face, her 4 eyes wide with concern and something that looked very much like love. As darkness claimed him, Jake's last thought was a mixture of triumph and wonder. He had done it. A human from Earth, lost among the stars, had just changed the course of history for multiple species. Whatever came next, the universe would never be the same again. Humanity's triumph. Jake's return to consciousness was gradual, his mind slowly piecing together fragments of memory. The battle, the anomaly, the overwhelming psychic connection, it all swirled together in a kaleidoscope of sensation and emotion. As his eyes fluttered open, he found himself in the Starweaver's medical bay, the soft hum of Lizurian technology surrounding him. And there, keeping vigil at his bedside, was Zora. "Welcome back," she said softly, her antennae twitching with what Jake now recognized as relief and affection. "Did we win?" Jake croaked, his voice rough from disuse. Zara's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a gesture of amusement. "That's an understatement. Jake, you've done more than win a battle. You've reshaped the future of this entire sector of space." Over the next few hours, as Jake regained his strength, Zara filled him in on what had transpired. The anomaly entity, freed from Volcran control, had dissipated peacefully back into the fabric of space-time, but not before leaving behind a treasure trove of advanced scientific knowledge as a parting gift. It's like nothing we've ever seen, Zora explained, excitement coloring her voice. Propulsion theories that could revolutionize space travel, energy manipulation techniques that defy our current understanding of physics. Jake, what you've done, it's going to change everything. But the implications went far beyond mere technological advancements. Word of the battle had spread quickly, carried by automated distress beacons and fleeing Volcran ships. The Lizurian Confederation, long isolated and cautious in their dealings with other species, found themselves thrust onto the galactic stage. And at the center of it all was Jake, the human who had bridged the gap between species, who had communicated with an entity beyond comprehension, and who had turned the tide in a conflict that could have reshaped the balance of power in the galaxy. As Jake recovered, delegations from various alien species began to arrive. They came seeking answers, alliances, and a chance to meet the remarkable human who had accomplished the impossible. "I hope you're ready for diplomacy," Zara said one day, a teasing lilt in her voice, "because you've become quite the interstellar celebrity." Jake groaned good-naturedly. "I don't suppose I could just hide in my quarters and let you handle it." Zara's antennae twitched in amusement. "Not a chance. Besides, you've proven that humans have a unique perspective to offer. It's time to show the galaxy what your species is truly capable of." And so, Jake found himself at the center of a whirlwind of diplomatic meetings, scientific conferences, and cultural exchanges. He spoke of Earth, of humanity's resilience and adaptability, of their capacity for both great destruction and even greater compassion. But more than that, he spoke of cooperation, of the strength that comes from combining different viewpoints and abilities. He used his own journey, from lone survivor to key player in an interstellar drama, as an example of what could be accomplished when species work together. As the weeks turned to months, Jake watched in awe as the aftermath of their adventure unfolded. The Lizurian Confederation, with the support of other allied species, began to establish a new interstellar council. Its purpose: to foster cooperation, to share knowledge, and to stand united against threats like the Volcran. And at the heart of this new alliance was the idea of human potential. Jake's enhanced abilities, awakened by his encounter with the anomaly, hinted at untapped possibilities within the human genome. Scientists from a dozen species clamored to study him, to unlock the secrets that might lie dormant in humanity's DNA. Through it all, Jake's relationship with Zara deepened. What had begun as an uneasy alliance between rescuer and rescued had blossomed into something profound. Their differences, physiological, cultural, experiential, became strengths rather than obstacles. "You know," Jake said one evening as they stood in the Starweaver's arboretum, watching the stars streak by outside the viewport, "when I first woke up on this ship, I thought my life was over, that I'd lost everything." Zara's hand found his, their fingers intertwining in a gesture that had become comfortingly familiar. "And now," Jake turned to her, a smile playing at his lips, "now I realize it was just beginning. We're on the cusp of something amazing, Zara. A new era of exploration and cooperation. And somehow I get to be a part of it." Zara's antennae twitched with affection. "You're more than just a part of it, Jake. You're the catalyst, the bridge between worlds." As if to emphasize her point, a chime sounded, indicating an incoming transmission. It was from Earth. Jake's heart raced as he accepted the call. On the screen appeared a face he had once thought he'd never see again: the Secretary General of the United Earth Government. "Captain Foster," the Secretary General said, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and pride. "On behalf of humanity, let me be the first to officially welcome you home, and to thank you for the incredible service you've done not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy." As Jake began to respond, to share the wonders he had seen, and the potential that awaited humanity among the stars, he felt Zora's presence beside him. Human and Lizurian, standing together as equals, as partners, as the embodiment of a new age of interstellar cooperation. The journey that had begun with a desperate rescue had led to this moment. the dawn of a new era for humanity and for countless other species across the galaxy. And Jake Foster, once just a captain on a routine mission, now stood at the forefront of this grand adventure. As he spoke of the marvels that awaited humanity in the vast expanse of space, Jake knew that this was only the beginning. The stars had once seemed cold and distant, full of unknown dangers. Now they beckoned with the promise of discovery, of new friendships forged across the gulf of space, and of a future brighter than any he could have imagined. The human adventure among the stars had truly begun.